if the start of this 2021 season is anything like the rest of the season is going to shape up to be, this is going to be a wild, wild season. And when you look at the playoffs, how awesome they were, and then you go into this wild start to the 2021 season, this could be an unbelievable ride all the way up into the next Super Bowl. Wilson is now a Denver Bronco. Rodgers is back with Green Bay. For us Dolphin fans, we got Gaseki at least for one more year. And that's a big deal. But what I want to take a look at today is, in my little time off, in my old man convalescence, which is turned out to be really good, type 2 diabetes, I liked my sugar and my carbs too much, but now I'm on keto, feeling fantastic, so I'm going to be back in full swing starting next week, just before the free agency. But we got Gaseki back for that one rent, which, for the rent, the 1 year rent, which is a big deal. But there's so many people, so many players on the way out. This roster is going to have a very, very huge shakeup, depending on the way things turn out. And this could be a very good thing, could be an okay thing, or it could turn out to be a bad thing. Who knows? Dolphins have a lot of ammo. There's a lot of good players out in free agency. But I think fans just need to really come to understand that the face of the team that you recognized in 2021, for better or worse, is going to be a lot different than this 2022 team. So we're going to go over and look at the players coming in, players going out, what the roster is going to look like heading into free agency, and really where we need to focus. Because there's some very clear areas where the Dolphins are going to have to spend a lot of their ammunition. And when all is said and done, you add the Gaseki contract, it's about $10 million, about $6 to $8 million for rookies. They're going to have about $45 million heading into free agency, depending on what they do with Howard. So it's a lot of money, but it's got to be spent well. So, one last point though. This AFC West, can you imagine Mahomes, Carr, they got Herbert, and now Wilson. Add to that Burrow, Lamar, and Allen, the AFC is stacked. The Dolphins are going to need to build very smart and very conscientious to build a team that can compete with these amazing quarterbacks. It's going to be wild. AFC is going to be a wild ride. But the good thing is we got Gaseki. Wasn't sure that he was going to make it back, and most likely he was. Still think there might be a team out there that might say, hey, roll the dice and throw the picks to get him, but that's a very low-end thing. So for all intent and purposes, he's going to be back, and that's very good for Tua. It's very good for this offense, especially if we can get a run game going. Because the thing with Gaseki is that he doesn't get open right away, but that middle clock and late clock, he can really find space and create huge openings and be a real weapon. So that play action, that run game, the delaying of the secondary, giving him a moment pause, this could really turn out to be a big, big year for Gaseki. So it's great to have him back. But some of the free agents that from our team that we're going to have 2 days prior to March 16th, when free agency kicks off at 4 p.m., we can negotiate with and maybe get some contracts out of, is going to be Durham Smythe. Don't think he's coming back. We got Ethan Carter on the roster, Adam Shaheen, and Hunter Long, and now Gaseki. So he's likely gone. Landon Roberts, he's gone for many reasons. Brennan Scarlett, a lot of fans really don't appreciate what he was doing until he got hurt, but he was playing at a very high level in a somewhat limited role. But he was a good player. I'd like to see him come back along with Duke Riley, but they're both unrestricted free agents. Nick Needham, although sometimes in key situations, maybe his coverage got loose, he played really well for us. But I think he's going to move on to a bigger contract. I think maybe he's like a Flores guy too, so that might actually, create the grease the skids for him to leave. And then we got Mac Hollins, unrestricted free agent, Preston Williams, restricted free agent, and Isaiah Ford, unrestricted free agent. Preston Williams, despite the injuries, he's got all that talent. And I would still see him going with all that talent, but he's a very good run blocking receiver. So I could see Miami putting a good tender on him and keeping him. Hollins, another guy, I can see them coming back for the right contract, but that's 50-50. Salvin Ahmed, I always mess it up. Salvin Ahmed, sorry, brother. It's like hardwired into my brain. He's a unrestricted free agent. I can see him going. Will Fuller's gone. Sam Egwavane, he's gone. Duke Johnson, I could see him coming back. Albert Wilson, gone. But the big guy that really concerns me, that somehow I hope we get him back, but I don't think we will. Is Ogbah, Emmanuel Ogbah. You look at his stats. For all that Flores was able to do and Boyer was able to do, there's a lot of good players on this team. Really, when you go back and you look at it, the engine over the last 2 seasons was Ogbah. And it was a great trade. I mean, I don't like Chris Greer, but it was a brilliant move. Now, Ogbah said he came here for a big reason, was to work with Flores. And I think that he could end up being a Steeler or maybe go someplace else. He's got some gripes about how it, whatever you think about it. But I hope he comes back. Look at his, over the last 2 seasons, 18 sacks, 75 pressures, 29 hurries, 45 hits, and last year he had 12 deflections. This guy was the engine for this defense. Now, Miami's going to have to replace that somehow. They're going to have, whether it's 1 or 2 guys, or they spend big and get somebody. But this guy was playing at like a Watt level. He was up there, one of the best edge players, pass rushers, run defenders even in the league. He was phenomenal. The hope would be that we can get him back. If we do, I really feel good about the season as far as the potential. If he doesn't come back, it's really going to make me a little nervous to see what they're going to do to offset his loss. Now, some people will say Jalen Phillips, and the guy is 266, 6'5", 6'6"-ish, freak athlete. But it took Ogbah 3 or 4 seasons to really become the guy we know. And Phillips, he's going to have to work on his run defense, and it's going to take 1 or 2 seasons. I like his potential, but I don't see him being the one guy to fill in for Ogbah. Maybe a piece, but not that one guy. They're going to need to get some pieces around him. Because currently, when you look at the roster, there's really no DNs, legitimate DNs. 3-4 DNs, maybe Sealer, or 4-3 DNs. So we really are in a tight bind without Ogbah in general, but especially with the DN spot. So that's what we got looking for. And, right now we got 50 guys on the roster, which sounds good. I mean, you figure you got 80 coming to camp plus, 80 coming to camp, 53 on the active. But when you go over the names, tackle Keon Smith, wide receiver DeAndre Dedman, defensive back Trill Williams, linebacker Darius Hodge, DE Deshaun Hill, wide receiver Cody Core, cornerback Quincy Williams, wide receiver River Kraft. These guys are low odds to make week 1 roster. So all those names get cut out. It's like about 9 names. Then you got some other ones that might and might not. Solomon Kinley. Spent 2 fourths on him. But the guy is gigantic and he has trouble with space, and we're running zone stretch. Where's he going to play? I mean, maybe they can find something. Maybe he comes in and gets serious and drops 20 or 30 pounds. I don't know. But this is a guy we could see moving on, and he's signed. But so you got QB Chris Strevler. I mean, maybe he'll stay. They keep 3 quarterbacks. Alan Hearns, quality receiver, but where is he now? I mean, are they going to pay the big money for him? Maybe, maybe not. Clayton Feldheim, special teams guy, might be able to save some money there. So Ethan Carter, he's signed, but will he last? He's really not a great run blocker. Last year, and he didn't really even start. So Greg Little, tackle Greg Little, we traded for him, and he never even started at all last year. Is he going to make it? Calvin Munson, not a bad linebacker, a utility guy, but Going to bank on him. Adam Pankey, Larnell Coleman, some potential there, but young. You're going to bank on him. Robert Jones, tackle. Big boy, show potential, but very raw. We're going to bank on him. And then Javari Davis, who, maybe, but likely. So really that puts about 31 players left that are real or pretty much locks for week 1. Got obviously Tua. He's not going anywhere. Parker, real good player, definitely coming back. Cheap when he's in. He's a playmaker, but injuries. I mean, is he going to be out for a couple of weeks? A week? Who knows? Inconsistency. Waddle, obviously. Bowden, this kid could have a big year with McDaniel. Really looking to see what they can do with this guy. Then you got Gaseki, like we talked about. Obviously, he's here. Shaheen, who I think could see a pretty big resurgence if he can stay healthy with McDaniel, who really values run-blocking tight ends, and he's a big boy, like 6'2", 270, and a quality run blocker, but injury history and a little inconsistent in the passing game. But this is a guy who could be a guy who steps forward and really helps out this offense. And then Hunter Long, big question. I mean, you look at his play last year, he was a very poor, terrible pass blocker and a poor run blocker, equivalent to Gaseki. So he's going to have to step forward as a third-round pick. But Myles Gaskin, who I think can have a very good year this year if they get the offensive lineman. John Love at the fullback, he's probably going to stick. Going to definitely be seeing fullbacks unless they find somebody else to replace him at fullback. And then Hunt and Liam Eichenberg are the only two real locks that we could see going into this. Hunt played really good at right guard, don't see him as a tackle. Eichenberg, he might move to that left guard spot, or they might try him again at tackle and see how he works. But he's definitely coming back, obviously. Big picks attached to him. On defense, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, obviously, Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, Eric Rowe. That secondary has a very nice front. Thin, though. Thin. And we're going to need to get help, especially, Noah's going to be back. But then defensive tackles, Wilkins, Davis, Sealer, Butler. Very nice interior. Still need maybe a nose tackle, maybe. I mean, Davis plays it, but you want to give that guy a break a little bit. But that's where pretty much set a defensive tackle and front line secondary. But then the edges, you got Jalen Phillips and Andrew Van Ginkel. And then at linebacker, Baker, and that's it. So we're going to have to invest in those edge players and that linebacking group, and we need some starters. So draft, free agency, it's going to have to happen. Then obviously special teams, Blake Ferguson, the long snapper, Jason Sanders, kicker, they're obviously back. Like I said, I have my concerns about Long, Parker because of his injury history, and Eichenberg's development. I believe Hunter Long and Eichenberg will become something eventually. This year, next year, I don't know where. Where will Eichenberg end up? But then you look at Jackson, Austin Jackson. There's nothing on film. There's nothing on film that said. Somebody was telling me in the comments that Alan Puparta, I can't never say the guy's name. He's he feels very confident that the offensive line can take the next step. Sure, that's possible. There's a lot of things that could make it, but there's nothing on film that says Austin Jackson's going to be a success. Maybe he was hurt last year because it was a disastrous year, but when you look at his tape, 2020, a lot of the same things were there, but they were covered up for many, many reasons I won't get into. But you can't get rid of him. I think it's a 6 or 7 million or something. You can't get rid of that guy. So he's going to have to, at worst case, be your back-end player and still hope he develops this year or next. But that's not a guy you can depend on. And then Noah, he couldn't even play special teams last year. And he's not going there. That's big money if you cut him. Then it's Jesse Davis, who everyone says he sucks. Yeah, at tackle, especially, as he's advanced in age with the bad knee. But you go back and look at every game practically he's played at guard, especially left guard. And you never have a problem with him. But it's so crowded inside. What are you going to do with him? I guess he's just a backup. But maybe they cut him. He's 31. He's got to, I think you'd save $4 or $5 million if you move him on from him. But, his versatility and maybe going to a backup role, maybe that's where you're going to find a spot for him. And then there's Michael Dieter. He's in the last year of his contract. And last year he played okay. He was a pretty good pass blocker, terrible in the run game, and he was injured. So this is a guy on the roster who you can't go back into the season with him at center, I don't think. And then Gerald Dokes, who I love in the running game, but is he going to develop the pass catching skills that really plagued him, that put him on the practice squad? Is he going to develop the pass blocking skills necessary? I don't know. And there's a little outlier, D'Angelo Ross, who played very little with the Patriots last year. But he might be the guy they're targeting, at least to give him the first chance to fill if they need him. He's like a nickelback, small guy. Had some success. So really you only got like 25 guys you can depend on, with 2 or 3 a little bit of concern of that 25, and of that 25, 2 are special teams guys. So there's really only 20 guys right now on the roster that fans and a team should say, I believe these guys are going to be here week 1 and they're going to be dependable. Now, like I said, $45 million is a lot of money. So many good plays. You look at the list, there's so many good plays out there. And so many offensive linemen, which is critical for this team. Agile plays that can play the run, the zone stretch game very, very well. I think there's like a record of linemen running sub 5 or something like that, some stat or whatever. But it's a big stat. But my concerns going into it and summation of this whole thing, we're still a little questionable in the blocking tight end department, which is going to be critical. Can Hunter Long step up? Can they dump Ethan Carter and find another guy to fill the spot? That's very easy to find a guy to fill that spot. But Hunter Long is going to have to play some real legitimate snaps. RBs, Dokes and Gaskin. Dokes is the roll of the dice. Gaskin is a good player, man. I think still people underrate him, but he's not the guy you can bank everything on. Does Duke come back? Even if Duke comes back, you still got to find another guy. But it's not desperate. It's not desperate. You bring Duke back and you're not like in desperation stage. So that's a good thing. QB, going to need a quality backup. It's going to be very, very critical. Wide receivers, I think Gaseki is going to kind of go into that, as he was described, as a big wide receiver. So I like where we're at with the receivers. We got Gaseki, Parker, Bowden, and Waddle. Parker, with his injury history, kind of bothers me. Going to have to try to get like another guy in there maybe to fill that spot. It's not good. There's a lot of good receivers out there in the draft and free agency. You can pick up to fill that backup role, that fill-in role. But the O-line, man, it's all about the O-line. It's all about the O-line. We got Eichenberg, Jackson, Hunt, Davis, Dieter, and Jones. Those are the only guys I could see doing anything. And Dieter's half a guy. He only pass blocks, like I said, and he's been injured. Davis, really only one of his guard as a backup, emergency, in case of emergency, at tackle spot. Eichenberg, short arms, bad footwork, small. I don't know. We'll be able to take that next step physically. We'll all slow down for him to play tackle. I really like him at left guard best. But then what do you do with Jackson? Where's Jackson go? If he can make some amazing, miraculous turnaround and show up and even play one of these tackle spots, it'd be amazing. But there's nothing to say he will. There's nothing to say. I'm going to go back and do some film and show you these guys in zone stretch, in zone, show you all the weaknesses they have. And you'll see that just talk about them taking the next step. It could happen, but there's really very little film to back it up. So, and then, Jones is raw, but they're going to have to spend a lot of ammo, either in draft or in free agency, preferably free agency. You don't want to have to go marinate some dude for 1 or 2 seasons with this line. You're going to have to get a vet. So I think it's going to be critical they pick up at least one good vet, either center or tackle. DTs, we're really good at DTs. CB, or cornerbacks, Howard and Jones is great, but Jones' knee is a ticking time bomb. If he goes down, it's going to get very, very ugly. So they're going to have to find somebody to either come in and be the future at that position, or somebody who can come in and just even spell him like, loosely in case something happens. Because that knee was even giving him problems last year. And that knee's never getting better. I mean, they got stem cell injections and all this other stuff they can do, so maybe. But that's still a touch and go spot. Holland, the safety, you got Holland, Rowe, Jones, set. And the edge, Van Ginkel, can't pass cover, but he can do everything else. Phillips can pass rush, but can't stop the run. I do like, from the tape I've been watching while I've been off, I do like a lot of his drops. I saw some really good athleticism in the cover game. And then we're going to have to get a punter. It's a very big piece. It doesn't seem like a big piece, but we need to get a good punter. So when you go through all the players and what's going to be most critical, we have 0 DNs on the roster, except maybe Sealer and Wilkins on occasion in that 3-4 look. But I really don't feel too comfortable in the 5-tech with them. So you're going to have to get somebody who can play that 5-tech. We got one linebacker, quality linebacker, Baker, and he can't play the middle. We've already seen that. He's got a special role. He's like a specialty linebacker. So linebacker is critical to stop the run. There's going to be a lot of teams running, focusing on that run and getting back into the run game this year. I can see it. Each season it's getting stronger and stronger. And Baker struggles there. So linebacker is another critical spot. We got really one running back. We're going to need more running backs. And then O-line. This O-line, it was TD Finn's talked about how when you do the RPO and a guy comes in, it's kind of counted as a pressure. Didn't really do the research on it, but it made sense. But I don't know how many this counted as, but they gave up 228 total pressures last year running the RPO in the quick passing game. But as I've said for months now, more importantly, we ran 12 personnel with 2 tight ends 63% of the time. The rest of the league ran at like 23, and the next highest percentage to run 12 personnel was like 26%. So we were running 2 tight ends, and with one of them almost always blocking, if not 2, and maybe the running back as well, 40% more than the next team up. That's how bad this offensive line is. So if you want to talk about RPO pressures bolstering this 228 total pressures, and somebody else said that during the win streak that PFF had said Miami's offensive line was like, top 5 or something. Well, the recent article, they must have been high, because now the recent article that came out where I got the total 28 pressures from, they said they were historically bad. And talked about how they need to do multiple assets to fix this. So really, the offensive line sets the table for everything. But almost in that area is linebacker and D-end. So there's a lot of big pieces. Now, these pieces are out there, and, they don't have to get superstars at all, except for, some at the offensive line. But there's a lot of work to be done. There's going to be a lot of work to be done. But the good news is McDaniel, he has a chance to build the team that he wants. He's not stuck with vast amount of players that maybe he doesn't like. And the tools are there to bring these players on. But it's not going to be easy. Dolphins are going to have to hit 2 or 3 big-time players into this draft to really compete in 2022. And then, on top of that, they're going to have to make smart and conscientious purchases of very high clip with the rest of their expenditures. This is as big an offseason as I can remember. Because, as I said, McDaniel is a guy, you listen to him, I personally like him. I really personally like him. He's a good interview. Seems like a genuine guy. He seems real smart. But it's going to be very difficult if this team comes out very slow and then struggles. Now, Greer, I don't like him as a person. Eventually I'll get that video out. And he struggled historically on the offensive line. But if he can turn that one lone aspect around this year and find 2 to 3 quality additions on that offensive line, he could change everything. And that's really what it's going to come down to. So this is Curtis saying thank you for staying to the end. There's a lot of hope, but there's also a lot of concern. We really won't know until that first quarter of the season is done. But we're going to get a gauge. And going into this free agency, it's not about getting all these big plays, but it's about getting good quality depth, average starters in some positions and filling out a lot of holes. So we head into this draft and we're just kind of like finishing up. This is a big offseason. I miss Flores. Some people say, I'll do the whole thing on it later. Don't like Ross, but I don't care. I don't care about them. I want to win. I want to see my team win. I want to see this team do well. This is so big for fans. So this is Curtis, and again, I forgot to say this part at the end, so I'm back again. This is Curtis saying thanks for staying to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Comments mean the most. Getting back to the comments. My health is finally coming back. Talk about it another day. It's crazy. So crazy. One of the biggest drugs on the planet, sugar. Subscribe and likes help us with the Google Overlords. And Google Overlords make our sponsors very happy when they Google Overlords do well with us. So subscribes and likes, they kind of make things go well, keep me in business. I want to stay in business, especially now that kind of getting back in the saddle. So catch you next time. I'm taking a couple of days off. I'll come back just before the free agency. Going to have a lot of stuff. I'm going to be going full tilt, like full tilt again. Maybe even more full tilt than I was during the 2021 season with all this energy I got. So anyway, catch you next time all. Be well and go Fins. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with acebread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.